2010 was the beginning of Generation 5 of Pokémon, with the brand new Region of Unova, entirely new Pokémon until the post-game, and an engaging as hell story. The past 4 generations all had enhanced editions down the line. Gen 1 had Yellow, 2 had Crystal, 3 had Emerald, and 4 had Platinum. But Game Freak decided to mix things up, and in 2012 released full sequels to the Unova games. This is my video of Pokémon Black and White 2. For this video I'll be going over White 2 specifically, doing a Nuzlocke run. I'd recommend watching my past videos for explanations on what a Nuzlocke is, and especially looking at my last video on the original Black and White, since I'll be making comparisons to that game a lot. But with that out of the way, let's go. We've got Juniper back to give the Pokemon speech, you know the one, except Minccino is now a Cinccino, so that's neat. The game begins with our mum getting a call from Juniper, asking if we want to do that Pokemon thing, and yeah, of course we do. Once we get outside, we meet our rival, Hugh, who comes with us to meet the returning Bianca from the first game, who's now officially Juniper's assistant. That's nice that she's finding something that she's better at and that's making her happy. She prompts us to choose our starter, and since I chose Snivy for Black and White 1, I'm gonna go with Oshawott for this game. I named her Katara. We're now into our rival battle with Hugh's Snivy, and after the battle, Bianca takes us to heal our Pokemon at the Pokemon Center. Cue explanations on everything we know already, you know, the boo 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 boo. Like, might be annoying having to do all the tutorial stuff every game, but that is a catchy little theme. Come on. At least here in Black and White 2, it gets the tutorial stuff over and done with really quickly. I think one of the quickest in the series if you don't want to engage with it, and this is amazing to see. First wild encounter of the run was a Patrat, who I got a crit on in one hit. Oh dear, I hope that's not a foreshadowing for the rest of the run. We soon run into Alder, the champion from Black and White 1, and Jesus, how did he not break his legs from jumping down there? Anyway, he says our starter looks cool, and he tells us to go hang out at his place before realising we're out to deliver a town map to Hugh, and lets us be on our way. I'm on to the second route of the game, Route 20, and caught my first Pokemon of the Nuzlocke, a Sunkern. I completely forgot they could be caught here, and I named it Sip. Hugh's hanging out on some farm, and it's named as a separate area, so I'm counting it as a unique area to catch a Pokemon. Once he's got everything out of his system, we can give him the town map. The owners of the ranch mentioned they haven't seen their Pokemon in a while, which sends you into a really worried frenzy. On the farm I caught a Lillipup, which kinda annoyed me because I know you can catch a Riolu here and I really wanted one, but obviously I can't choose, and right now anything that I can find is a positive. We find the ranch owner's Herdia along with a grunt from a reborn Team Plasma. Although with a new fit, I was gearing up for a battle, but he just throws a TM at us and runs off. Alder suggests we travel to the nearest city to challenge the gym, and this guy in a very dapper suit gives us a case for medals, which is a mechanic specific to Black and White 2, but I don't give a shit about them, so I'm moving on. Bloody hell, Alder back at it with the crazy jumps again. I didn't realise the city that Alder was referring to was our hometown. I had a total brain fart about it because I completely forgot the name. The trainer school has been combined with the first gym, and the leader is none other than Sharon, the other rival from Black and White. Sharon was a tough first gym leader, using work up to buff his attacks, but thankfully some lucky crits and flinches got the job done. I obtained the basic badge with no losses. It's nice to see Sharon and Bianca reunited, and also in the call on the extra transceiver, which makes a return. Our character looks like he's doing the colon 3 face, so that really tickled me. When making it to Verbank City, the gym leader, Roxy, seems to be having a little domestic with her dad, who wants to be a Pokestar and a Sea Captain. I did some training at the nearby complex, motivating the workers with Pokemon battles and getting Rock Smash for it. I also caught a Magnemite I named Melania since it will be very useful in the upcoming gym. Against Roxy, it will not know defeat. The second gym is all about poison, baby, and it's set in an underground club where the leader, Roxy, and her band are jamming out. I love the little song the little Pokemon song that they've come up with, and I just love the aesthetic of the bar in general. It's so cool. Like, I would go for a drink here. And, like their namesake, Melania absolutely wiped the floor with every single trainer, Roxy included. You're dragged into the Pokestar Studios after, and honestly, as impressive as the sprite work and animation is, I don't know anyone who's invested in this. Moving on, Team Plasma shows up, and Roxy and Hugh have been holding them off until we show up. After dealing with them, we can take the boat to Castelia City, the first familiar area in the game. That ship isn't totally ominous at all, and oh, clown, kill it! Oh, you gave me a bike. Alright, you're on thin ice though, fella, I warned you. I tried to see if we could go back to Nacrene City, but the bridge connecting the two is under inspection right now. You can buy one of those ice cream things, since it was always busy before in the last game, so that's cool. They heal any status effects, so they are actually quite useful. I headed over to the gym, but Berg wasn't there. Iris is though, and Berg's left since apparently some weird activity had been going on in the city. Iris gives us an idea of where to look, and turns out we need to go in the sewers. Lovely. We explore together with Hugh, and it is legitimately cool that there's another layer to the city we weren't able to explore in the last game. For early game, the sewer is quite a long and complex dungeon. I got a Zubat here that I named Zato, and of course Team Plasma Grunts are down here and we take care of them. Berg's down here too, along with a strange looking scientist. There's more down here, including a separate area, so I took some time to explore more before taking on Berg's gym. By the time I got to the gym, I had a full team for the first time in the Nuzlocke run. Katara and Yap evolved into Dewott and Herdia respectively, and I have Zato the Zubat that I mentioned before, Melania the Magnemite, Sip the Sunkern, and Goomba the Roggenroller as my other party members. Bug gym time. Gone are the honey walls. Now we've got a really elegant looking cocoon maze, a massive upgrade in my opinion. With Zato, who evolved into Golbat after the gym leader battle, I managed to get the badge with no issues. At the outskirts of the city, the weird looking scientist dude from the sewer lies in wait. This is Colress, and he wants to battle us, but not yet. He says he'll wait for us at the end of Route 4, since he's curious about if a way a Pokemon is raised affects its power. Sip the Sunkern got clapped, not really surprised, but it was just purely from me getting greedy. Still sad since it's the first death of the run, but Sunkern is like notoriously one of the weakest Pokemon ever, so I'm not surprised. Anyway, out with him, in with Kira the Skitty. I got a Minccino here, which was a bit annoying since I have loads of normal types, but as a wise woman once said, country gals make do. I called it JP after both Juniper and the Street Fighter villain. I won against Colress, but stupidly forgot that I could have used Sonic Boom instead of spending a stupid amount of time whittling him down. There's a joint avenue that I took very seriously on the way to Nimbasa, but I just want to heal my Pokemon. Shit. I'll circle back to it in a sec. Skitty dead, Minccino time. I did some grinding at the Desert Resort and Relic Castle, catching a couple new Pokemon. There's also this weird joint avenue thing that I mentioned before. I looked into it further, but it's just purely an online component, so we're going to be moving right along. A fun little surprise, at the entrance to the battle subway is some pretty cool looking characters. The subway bosses Emmet and Ingo to be precise, and you may recognise the latter more from Pokemon Legends Arceus. I know that's where I remember them most prominently in, but that's a discussion for that game. And the other being the Lone Trainer being the other player character you didn't pick. And so in my case it was Rosa, complete with the starter you or your rival didn't pick, so Pig Knight in this case. Nice to know Tepig wasn't left to rot either. I went to the Nimbasa gym, which was still there, completely intact. Only problem is that the gym leader isn't there, and apparently Eliza had just left. After going on the Ferris wheel with a pregnant lady, I figured out that Alessa hadn't gone too far, waiting in a building nearby. Instead of a Pokemon gym, we're at a fashion show that just so happens to feature Pokemon battles. I love that the background music kicks in more with the increasing amount of trainers you've beaten, until... that goes so fucking hard. Speaking of, Eliza's fight is really difficult, her style revolving around using the move Volt Switch to do damage and swap Pokemon quickly, but with some calculated switching of my own, healing and patience, I managed to beat her with only losing Goomba. In comes Tony to replace him, who I reckon has the makings of a varsity athlete. At the bottom left of the city, I spotted Hugh surrounded by some Team Plasma grunts. An interesting interaction with an NPC is in the forest. He asks if we know the Pokemon Zoroark and gives us the TM for Snarl, talking about its illusion ability before turning into a Zoroark and running away. Interesting that it can mimic human speech. Just keep that in mind for later. JP and Tony were beaten while looking around, so I guess he didn't have the makings of a varsity athlete after all. So I brought in Flubber the Solosis and Antonio the Roselia to help Hugh out with Team Plasma. After chasing them out, Hugh finally opens up to us a bit more. His sister's Pokemon, a Purloin, was stolen by Team Plasma during the events of Black and White 1, and that's why he's so dead set on taking them down and why he gets so agitated when he feels like other people's Pokemon aren't being taken care of properly. With this context, the way he's acted until now makes so much more sense. Bianca pops in and gives us the HM for Fly, so that's nice of her. And she also introduces the hidden grotto mechanic, where there's basically a mini route in between certain trees where you can encounter a Pokemon, even having overworld sprites, which is pretty neat. I forgot these were even a feature, to be honest, and I could never seem to come across another one again. Although there were a couple of losses, I made it into Driftvale City, and were greeted by two Team Plasma grunts arguing. One is in an old uniform and one's in the new. He's asking the old uniformed grunt to come back, but he's adamant he can't go back to his old ways. When N left, Team Plasma seemed to split off in two. Those who genuinely believed in N's cause of saving Pokemon, and those who wanted to just cause chaos. Before getting to the gym, we have to beat one of the old Team Plasma sages as a test. Hugh confronts them and demands to know where his Purloin is, but the sage speculates it's still with Team Plasma. I feel bad for both sides here. True, they did cause people like Hugh to suffer, but they can't take back the past. The best thing they realistically can do now is work to atone for what they've done and apologise. Annoyingly, he did beat Antonio the Rosaria, but he does give us a Zorua, so swings and roundabouts innit. I lost Yap to a trainer in the gym, but Zato evolved into a Crobat, and with that I'm off to fight Clay, but not before a bit of grinding. It was well worth it though, as I was able to beat him with only one loss with Imposter the Fungus I caught earlier. They expanded Clay's character a little bit, talking about why he forgives Team Plasma to Hugh, because he believes that people are fully able to change if they're committed, something he thinks Hugh should learn from. He tells about the Pokemon World Tournament. It's kinda like the Battle Frontier from past games, including fighting trainers from the past. And just like the Battle Frontier, I don't really care for it. You are required to take part for the story, with fights against Hugh, Charon and Chorus respectively in 3-on-3 battles. I'm not really counting these as fights in my Nuzlocke since they're their own thing, they're not proper battles. And the second we step outside, Team Plasma grunts literally jog right past us. Against Chorus's warning, Hugh and Charon run off to confront them, the former being unable to work out why, logically thinking their chance of winning is near impossible. That ship from the New York City, I forget the name, makes its return, with Hugh commenting on how unusually cold it feels on it. A grunt got lucky against Melania. Their strength was extraordinary, a mark of a true lord. After clapping the grunts, one of the old sages who still side with Team Plasma summoned the returning Shadow Triad to kick us off the ship, proclaiming they'll use the legendary dragon Pokemon to bring Unova to its knees. But now the ship's taken off, so all we can do for now is to press on. Charon asks us to look into an incredibly odd temperature drop in Lacumosa town, giving us the HM for Surf. On Route 6 we get jumped by Cobalion, who just squawks at us and hops off. The sage from Driftvale, Rude, believes that it appeared to help the player combat Team Plasma and Ghetsis, and advises us to befriend it so it can help us on our journey, but that'll have to wait for another time. In the cave we hear someone off screen talk about saving Pokemon before it's too late. If you pay attention to the speed of the text, you might already know who this could be. At Mistralton City, we run into Professor Juniper and Skylar. The former gives us the Master Ball and lets us know she's going off to the Celestial Tower, and we're given a choice by Skylar: go and train and meet up with Juniper, or go to challenge her gym. I like that we don't have to do one or the other immediately, but I figure training is probably my best bet. I'd been having too many close calls for my liking lately. There's a dude here who'll trade you in a Molga for a fucking Gigalith. More NPC trades like this, please. This is so good. If only I had an Emolga. I climbed up the Celestial Tower.
Let's fucking play it!
I rang the bell. To my knowledge it doesn't do anything, but I have some very nostalgic memories of some mod video of someone ringing the bell and summoning like Rayquaza or Ho or something, and 2010s me was like, whoa, it's on video, it's gotta be real. Skylar's gym is centered around a timing puzzle. Use the environment or trainers to either block the wind or use them as pillars. I kinda prefer the cannon thing from the last game though. Before taking her on, I did some grinding to evolve Buzzbuzz into Galvantula, since Kitara evolved into Samurott and Zoroark evolved into Zoroark beforehand, although Mallow did fall during grinding. It paid off, as although there was a small scare with Zoroark, I got the 6th gym badge from Skylar with little issue. Juniper wants to travel by plane with us, so I'm going to cap off exploring up to Twist Mountain before continuing, since apparently it's closed off right now. That family is still in the house in the middle of Route 7, and we can register Tornadus, Thundurus and Landorus in the Pokédex with them. Marshall's guarding the entrance to Twist Mountain as a cool little cameo. Bianca quickly tags along, and Juniper asks us to go speak to Drayden once we land, since Team Plasma spoke about the legendary dragon Pokemon, and since he's the dragon expert as well as the next gym leader, it just makes sense. Whilst Bianca has gone off to research Pokemon at Reversal Mountain, off in the corner is the Strange House. I cannot tell you how fucking dope I find the Strange House to be. The music is really quiet and understated, the sounds of ghostly wind mainly being prominent. It'll require a bit of backstory. In Black and White 1, there's a girl who stands on the bridge at certain times of day. If you go near her, she'll vanish completely. That's all you ever get at that point, but going through particular rooms in this house will cause the same girl to appear, speaking of an everlasting dream of darkness, that she needs to forget about the Lunar Wing and stay with her father. The implication being Darkrai has put her in this state, as the only cure for his nightmare coma ability is Cresselia's Lunar Wing. You pick it up in the center room, the girl appearing by you. She can't take the Lunar Wing anymore, so would like you to return it back to the legendary Pokemon. This was why she was waiting on the bridge in the first game. She was unable to return it, so leaves the task to us. Bianca's on the lookout for Heatran, and asked to partner up with us while we look in the mountain. I caught a Woobat and I wanted to name him Bozo because, well, look at him, but I accidentally clicked without a nickname. After getting a good amount of grinding in to evolve Lamplighter and Engineer, Bianca and I go our separate ways, although if you return in the post-game you can actually find Heatran, but as for now, I'm heading to Undella Town. Zoroark died whilst I was exploring, which made me pretty sad since it's one of my favourite Gen 5 Pokemon. But I still needed another member of the team, so I replaced him with Shrimp the Raticate. There's this cave at Undella Bay with this freak who won't let you pass unless you can beat his rock and rollers, but you're not allowed to battle him, so my first thought was this is a post-game area, but it's not, it's part of the main game, it's just blocked off for now. White Forest is blocked off too, with this existential dancer guy. Hugh surprises us with a battle, but I managed to beat him with no losses. I was quite surprised that he only had 3 Pokemon at this point in the game, to be honest. Shrimp didn't last long at all, so I brought in Finn the Mantike, and as I thought, he didn't last too long either. And whilst I do have some backup still, I seem to have a pretty bad habit of KOing potential Pokemon pretty often lately in wild encounters. We make it into Lacrimosa Town and get told about the legend of the Pokemon that ate people and caused the freezing temperatures, confirming it to be Kyurem. Juniper believes that Reshiram and Zekrom are connected to Kyurem and goes off to do more research, and Cobalion is just hanging out on the edge of town. Hi buddy, what's going on? Don't care, you're coming with me, bitch. After a little scrap with Cobalion, we find Hugh just loitering around town for Team Plasma, and like clockwork, a Grunt and Sage show up. An old dude on the bridge to the left of town is desperate to battle us, claiming that we'll be his 1000th win. So, sucks to be him. On Route 11, Verusian decides to jump us this time. Getting mugged by the Swords of Justice seems to be a recurring theme in the sequels, rather than have them hanging out in caves. Iris greets us once we arrive at Opelucid City and answers a question I had in my Black and White 1 video. Dryden is Iris' grandpa, not by blood, but he must have took her in, which is very sweet. She tells us the location of the gym, but suggests we go to Route 9 to the left for more training. And hey, more routes means more Pokemon, so might as well. I was curious to see what became of the path upwards to Victory Road, but it's completely blocked off. The entrance to the cave you can only enter after your champion in Black and White 1 is blocked off now too, Sag. Still got the shopping mall though. The bridge connecting it to Icarus City is currently undergoing safety inspections, so after a little bit more grinding, there's nothing else to do except take on Dryden's gym. His gym is probably the closest a returning gym leader has puzzle gimmick wise, except this time you're using the dragon statues to ascend to the very top where he waits for you. He's even taken some cues from Norman's gym from Ruby, Sapphire and Emerald, where different directions and trainers represent different battle strategies. Left focusing on attack, where right does defense, as an example. Zato was taken down by a gym trainer, and honestly I think this has been one of the saddest losses in the run so far. He's been here from pretty much since the start, and now... The imagery of the 2 dragons in Black and White, i.e. Reshiram and Zekrom, punching each other and literally clashing heads is really cool. But enough about his gym, time to actually fight him. After managing to take him on with no losses, he tells us about the story of Kyurem, and just as he's doing so, Team Plasma rock in on that flying boat and perform the closest thing Pokemon has to a terrorist attack, freezing the town over. Dryden, being the absolute king he is, isn't going to let that slide, and asks for our help in driving them out of town. We're now allowed to battle that rock and roller guy and progress through the cave. I really love the Martine tube in the next city. The model work is so fucking impressive. After catching a Staryu I named Alan after the D Greyman Pro tag, since his star-shaped scar above his eye reminded me of Staryu, I'm ready to fight the final gym, the 8th being water type. However, the gym leader's not here. He went off yelling about the sea. Apparently he's known for just taking off and doing whatever. Oh, Marlin jump scare, Marlin jump scare. The gimmick for the gym this time around is using these lily pads to get around, and gotta say, this gym is very aesthetically pleasing. After some training with Alan and evolving him into a Starmie, I finally feel ready to fight Marlin. I managed to beat him and get the final gym badge, but at the cost of Katara. Again, a real sad loss since I had my starter since the beginning of the game. I think with Marlin they're trying to go with everyone has their own thing going on and sometimes you have to remain impartial, but when it comes to people who steal Pokemon and freeze entire towns over, yeah, that doesn't really work. It just makes him come off as a know-it-all and dumbass at the same time somehow. Hugh tells us to explore Route 22 for any signs of Team Plasma, and Terrakian's just here vibing. Get in with that PC with your pals, you bastard. There's nothing else here aside for some trainers, but Colress gives us a device before we fight Terrakian, which will wake up the Crustle in the seaside cave so that we can progress. Turns out the exit just behind the Crustle is exactly where Team Plasma's ship is lurking, and, with Marlon's help, you storm the boat with Hugh. We advance, but there's an electrified barrier, so we have to look around the ship to deactivate said barrier. After taking the plasma card and beating all the grunts to piece the password together, I managed to remove the barrier. The code is 7707 by the way, spoilers, I guess. The sage from before shows us how they managed to attack the town, as they have the legendary Pokemon Kyurem held captive, harnessing its power to create those ice missiles. He goes in to take care of us, but Hugh comes in clutch to back us up with a double battle. I managed to beat them, however the Shadow Triad walked us off the ship before it took to the skies and left for the giant chasm. They managed to KO Alan too, so that really pissed me off to be honest, because I put in quite a bit of work training him. At the bottom of said chasm, we're greeted with a scene of an ex-Sage and old Team Plasma members trying to reason with the new ones. Hugh goes on ahead. Now he's got more intel about his sister's purloin, and this grunt here calls him a cretin. I love that insult, so it just made me laugh. That sage twat is back again, so it's time to clap him once more. Getting past him, we find none other than Colress at the helm. He's pretty unique as far as Pokemon antagonists go. He's clearly working for Team Plasma, but he holds next to no loyalty to them. He's only bothered about what makes Pokemon strong, whether that's through love and dedication, or cold and apathetic means. His theme is a banger though, there's no denying that. It's here I came to a realization. I am woefully unequipped to deal with steel types. So, based on my last battle with him, I decided it would be a good idea to swap some fellas around, and after a hard-fought battle, he tells us where Kyurem is and how to free him, and the outcome of the next battle will determine how he acts going forward, leaving before he wishes us luck. We finally meet the absolute madman himself, Getsus, immediately ranting about how he can't believe Colress put science above Team Plasma's goals, and how he'll freeze the entire region over before running off. It's here Hugh finally confronts one of the Shadow Triad and gets to learn the truth about his sister's purloin. He finds it, now evolved into a Liepard and loyal solely to one of the Shadow Triad members, before he challenges us personally. With all the Triad members dealt with and Hugh emotionally devastated from finding out what happened to his sister's purloin, it's up to us to descend deeper and confront Getsus and Kyurem. We finally have them cornered, and in a twist, Getsus genuinely sicks Kyurem on the player in an attempt to kill them. And he would have succeeded if not for N swooping in on Reshiram with Fusion Flare to melt the ice. Getsus planned for this though, and uses the DNA splicers to return Reshiram back into the stone and fuse it with Kyurem, since, as was established in the last game, Kyurem is the hollow middle that was born from the split of the one dragon into Reshiram and Zekrom, turning it into white Kyurem in a literal blaze of glory. Getsus eggs us on to fight Kyurem, not wanting to get involved and purely wanting to see you lose without him having to lift a finger. What a dick. I do like how he's gone completely off the deep end here, even compared to how mental he was in Black and White 1's ending, and fucking hell, the intro of White Kyurem's battle theme is fucking scary. Catching him ain't an option, since a device in Getsus's cane disrupts all Pokeballs. It's a traditional JRPG boss fight here. Defeating him separates the two legendaries, leaving Getsus absolutely fucking fuming. His theme is a remix of his original, except this time around it feels far more frantic, kind of like how he's portrayed here in the actual game. After beating Getsus with only losing Buzzbuzz the Galvantula, bless him. After everything he's done, after all the shit he's been put through and said to him, N still tries to reach out to Getsus and get him to see sense. Only for the poor guy to be pushed away. He's just not able to get through to him, to the point Getsus is so enraged he has to be escorted off by the Shadow Triad. N and Reshiram thank us for our help and states that they feel Kyurem will return to this area in the near future, but in the meantime we should push ourselves further and challenge the Pokemon League. The ice covering the giant chasm has been thawed out, so telling us about how his view of Pokemon battling has changed and given us the HM for Waterfall, it's nice to see just how much the events of the last game has affected N. Time to get through Victory Road then. Because it's all classified as Victory Road and the environments are pretty varied, I decided each new environment is a new route to catch a Pokemon. Along a path in Victory Road, a Zoroark stands by the doorway. It refuses to move, so I imagine this will be something to return to in the post-game. At the end of the final tunnel, Hugh catches up and declares he'll test us before we can take on the Pokemon League. I did lose Chie the Unzenfon, but I managed to battle my way up to the Elite Four. So, after doing a little bit of grinding and getting everyone to an even level, my team consists of Paul the Clefable, Blimbo the Driflim, Felicia the Liepard, Eugene the Crustle, Elizabeth the Amoonguss, and Cloud the Altaria. I took on Caitlin first since I felt I was best equipped to take her on, and there wasn't much she could do against my team. Next I fought Chantel, and I managed to beat her thanks to some clever switching, only losing out on Paul. Next up is Grimsley, who held his own, but I managed to beat him with no losses. And last but not least, Marshall, who I managed to win against with no losses yet again. There was a specific reason I wanted Cloud the Altaria on the team, despite not really using him much so far. Because I remembered that Iris, the Dragon-type trainer, has been upgraded to Champion, and a really nice new design and theme song. It was really tough. She's a way scarier Dragon Champion than Lance in my view, but with Cloud the Altaria and Eugene the Crustle being the only survivors, I beat her and became the champion of the Unova region all over again. That's the main game done, and beating it unlocks easy mode, whereas beating Black 2 unlocks a harder challenge mode. Not sure why you don't have access to either difficulty, and not having easy from the get-go doesn't make much sense, but whatever. The credits are very cute, your character making their way backward through the region in a sort of photo album, with your mother waiting outside at your home for your return, but as we know, we've got a post-game to look at. So, how's about that post-game, eh? We get our Pokedex upgraded, and Hugh's sister lets us know about dreams she's been having about a Zoroark calling out to us. Seems like I was right about that part of Victory Road being post-game. I'll check it out later, but first I had to replace the KO'd Pokemon from the League, so I now have the additions of Busku the Dunsparce, Majora the Lunatone, Alphonse the Golurk, and Bublet the Lilligant. Now, I'm not going to do everything that's available in the post-game, but I'll go over the main big ones aside from the event-exclusive stuff, since you can't really do that legitimately anymore. First order of business was to pick up a free Eevee in
New York City.
Next is to explore the towns and cities that have been blocked off until now. It's pretty novel that what represents the early game and the last one is post-game content this go around. Hold on, that man! We actually come across Cherin and Pinwheel Forest. Apparently Team Plasma have been sighted around here, so we asked for our help in locating them. While fighting the trainers here, Busku was KO'd though. Not surprised, cause it's a Dunsparce, so enter Funky Student the Bouffalant. We get to a dead end in the forest, and my man Gorm literally pulls a boo. Turns out he wasn't up to anything shifty, just thinking about what he's done in Team Plasma's name in the past, so maybe he's not so gormless after all. That was awful. Please dislike and unsubscribe. I even checked out the area where you found Virizion in the last game, but it's just an NPC here. Since we didn't fight her as a gym leader, I was pretty curious to see what Lenora's been up to. She's now retired being a leader to focus solely on the museum, so it's nice to see she's doing well. She asks what fossil we prefer, and since I got the plume fossil for Archops in Black and White 1, I went with the cover fossil for Tortuga this time. Although they're not fighting as gym leaders anymore, you can pick one of the three brothers to fight with you against the other two in a double battle, so I went with the pre-3 protag looking guy. The second you go into Dreamyard, you meet Latias before it flies off, and Latios in Black and White too, so we gotta see what's up. It's pretty much just waiting to fight you, so you've got a chance to catch it. Thank fuck it is not roaming. I've gone through all the areas in the bottom right of the map. The only place left to explore is White Forest. On the way there, on the Marvelous Bridge where we found the Ghost Girl in the last game, we can hold the Lunar Wing up to summon Cresselia to battle and catch it. Now out of the two, I prefer White Forest to Black City. If you do the battle challenge here, you get a free shiny Dratini in White 2 and Gibble in Black 2 respectively. Oh, I forgot about Icarus City, that's also explorable in post-game as well. I checked that out quickly, and at the mall by the city, an old man tells about another member of the Swords of Justice, Keldeo, of who Taraki and Virizion and Cobalion took in and trained, so it's nice you get a bit more lore on them. There's also a Shadow Triad jump scare here. They want to battle us for an item in the city. It's literally only just a PP up, so it's not really worth that much build up. Right, I think it's about time to finally see what N wanted. If we go back to that blocked off path in Victory Road, we're led by Zoroark to a building underground, the literal ruins of N's castle from the end of the last game, even having a much more subdued version of the castle theme playing. Also, the Zoroark running away and N suddenly appearing gives rise to the theory that he's a Zoroark pretending to be human. Remember how I mentioned that there was a Zoroark earlier that was able to mimic human speech? That's also a point to it. But I personally always just took it as a Pokemon of his that he asked to get our attention. He accompanies us around the castle, and god, the already creepy toy box version of his theme in the playroom is turned up to 11 with this ruined version. He starts to reminisce on his very early life, and he can only handle thinking about it for a few moments before having to step out. Poor guy. N wants to see if we have the same conviction that the protag from 2 years prior did. Side note, I like if you go to the protagonist's house from Black and White 1, their mum mistakes us for them, asking if we ever found N, so it's nice to know that they seem to stay as pretty close friends. Oh, and his theme is a much more light and upbeat version now, signifying that N's at much more peace with himself and the world around him. Even as trainer Sprite, he appears to be smiling widely compared to the more neutral expression of the last game. The fight is just against Reshiram here, and after the battle, N asks Reshiram to travel with us, turning back into its Lightstone form, so we need to take it back to the Dragon Spiral Tower. Once we catch Reshiram, N shows back up and tells us what the Legendary is thinking, that Kyurem has returned to the Giant Chasm and we need to battle it once again. Now we got Kyurem and the DNA splicers back, we can finally use White Kyurem, baby! Zekrom does Black Kyurem, and honestly I wish there was more shit like this in the games. I think they're both really cool. Although I played Black and White 2 way after they originally released, I think Black and White 1 are bolder for having Unova only Pokemon, at least until the post-game, but I'm always more of a fan of more variety, and I think Black and White 2 is a more polished gameplay experience overall. These games are amazing, but it also feels bittersweet getting to the end of this, since it also marked the end of an era, the 2D sprite-based era, with the series fully committing to 3D with the next generation of Pokemon X and Y. And that's the end of the video. I want to give a big thank you for watching and bearing with me. I know this took longer than I thought it was going to. I'm also planning on going on a hiatus because of personal stuff, for anyone who cares. I don't have any form of social media, so kind of the best way to find out what's going on with me is just through these videos, if you care. Like, it's a liking and subscribing is a massive help. It would be nice to get this channel like off the ground. So I don't know when I'm going to be posting. It's going to be pretty sporadic for a good while, but I will post when and where I can. So yeah, again, I just want to give a big thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video, whenever that's going to be. Bye bye.